Well, here we are in Athens in the Olympic Stadium, where England have just beaten Greece by 3-0. They've gone top of the group. They're in control. It's looking good. That's why there's a smile on my face, because I'm happy. Jim Proudfoot, our commentator, is with me. So is the England legend, Stuart, Pearce, part of our commentary team as well. And if you're not going to be happy after an away win like that, then what's the point? That was terrific, wasn't it, Stuart?
Well, the result certainly was, Aid. You know, we've come here tonight, under a little bit of pressure, I would say. A lot of pull-outs, all of those type of things. Kept a clean sheet, most important. And after the game at Wembley, where the Greeks really ruined us a little bit, didn't they? We've come here to win the game 3-0 is absolutely spot on.
Greek ruins? Do you see what he's done there, Jim? You like that?
He can't help himself, just throws them in. Even when he doesn't realise he's doing it.
I'm just that good.
He's been here 24 hours and he's already on it. There was some really good performances from an England point of view. I think there's so many positives, which we'll try and get through as many as we can, Jim Proudfoot. But the fact that there were so many debutants on the pitch at the end of the game, and they actually played really well, the debutants, says to me that the future for England is bright if managed correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the strength in depth that England have got was really exhibited tonight. They're coming away from home into a hostile atmosphere, playing against a side who are ranked 20th in the yellow ratings and who beat England a month ago. They've named 27 players for this squad and 9 of them have pulled out. And yet England can still throw debutants in. They look so comfortable. I thought Lewis Hall looked so assured. Curtis Jones was fantastic. I know we'll be eulogising about him later, but a quick word about Lewis. So I just thought came on at left back, wouldn't necessarily have known that he was going to get as long as he did, but he just looked so comfortable, so assured, confident. A very important block in front of Jordan Pickford laid on to ensure that England kept the clean sheet. And as you say, we've sat here a few times and it's been difficult to try and find a positive spin to put on things. Very, very few negatives tonight. It was just tremendous, and credit where it's due. I think he picked the right team, and I think that everybody that was involved tonight comes away in great credit.
Yeah, I mean, we will wow about Curtis Jones. In fact, I'm not going to let this go without us wowing about Curtis Jones. I love him so much, but I think that there was a big decision from Lee Carsley before the game started, and that was Harry Kane. In his words, it was about rotation, seeing what Ollie Watkins would do. He was specific. I didn't drop him. Listen, he's been left on the bench, the captain of England, the top goal scorer for England. Ollie Watkins scores inside the first 10 minutes. So that's a really positive response from an England point of view. And out wide in that first half, England were sensational. They were unplayable at times, Gordon and Madueke.
Within minutes you could tell that they struggled to deal with our wide players. The only frustration I probably had in the first half, we didn't supply those wide players with enough ball and encourage them enough to really go past. But Madueke was outstanding. He was the one that his persistence on this right hand side broke the deadlock. Gordon was good on the left hand side, but probably didn't receive as much as the ball as Madueke on this side of the pitch. But the bottom line is that was the key to the game, to be quite honest with you, and that's what put the Greeks on the back foot.
Yeah, again, it was so exciting to watch. It's not often we say that England were great to watch, but that wing play from England was terrific to watch. And I think, Jim, that's possibly set a standard and there's lots of players could play in those positions. Those two tonight, first half in particular, I think set a standard that has to be followed. If you're in one of those positions, one of those wide positions for England, that's the kind of game you've got to have. You've got to cause havoc.
Yeah, I'm a massive admirer of Bukayo Saka, but that felt like a phenomenal performance from Noni Madueke that all of a sudden puts a question mark over that particular position in the team going forward. Listen, as I say, I'm not suggesting that Madueke is now ahead of Saka, but he's certainly a player that if Saka were injured for a very significant game any time in the future, you'd have no qualms having seen that tonight about Noni playing in that role. So could you then fit them both in the team? Then you look at Anthony Gordon and so on and so forth. Could you move Saka, maybe move him inside somewhere? Would that be something that worked? Maybe not, but we're in a position now that you can genuinely look at the team and say, well, it doesn't just pick itself. And there have been plenty of times when England teams have picked themselves. This one is a complete conundrum, and I think that the balance was so much better tonight than we've seen in the past. And Thomas Tuchel will have been sitting there rubbing his hands with glee watching that, because he now knows exactly what he's got to work with, and that the depth is really there.
Yeah, I mean, we can't get carried away. We can't watch that and say, yes, they're definitely going to go and win the World Cup.
No, of course not.
So many positives. And let's talk about Curtis Jones. I've been a big admirer for a long time. It's taken a long time, injuries, etc., for him to make his England debut. He's gone and done it. He scored Stuart Pearce. I thought he's been terrific for Liverpool, and he was terrific for England tonight. I wouldn't have a problem if he stayed in this England side for a long, long time.
Well, the bottom line is, if he delivers performances like we saw tonight, he certainly probably will. That's the bottom line. Very assured with the ball at his feet, no doubt about that in the first half. Displayed almost an arrogance on the ball, to be honest with you. And his goal was wonderful. There's no doubt about that. It's a beautiful goal to behold. And he just took his club football on the international stage. So did Madueke. Once again, another player. There was a lot of players out there tonight that have taken their really good club form straight on on the international stage, and sometimes we get frustrated, don't we, over the years, that why does he play that well for his club and he doesn't translate into international football? Well, I'll tell you what, we saw some youngsters do exactly that, and it was good to see.
Yeah, we've had that conversation about Phil Foden many times. Club form has been unquestionable. For a country, not so much, and maybe he could learn a bit from those who played out here tonight. Curtis Jones must feel 10 feet tall tonight, Jim.
Yeah, he must do. And the other thing, aside from the brilliance of his own individual performance, is the balance that it provided in the midfield, because the way that he played allowed Jude Bellingham that little bit of licence not to drop back as much and to play as a genuine 10. And then if you think you've got Declan Rice to come back as well, I thought that Conor Gallagher was solid, but you've got Declan Rice to come back in, he's always going to be first choice ahead of Conor. But you can see that midfield three of Rice and Jones and Bellingham could be an answer for England going forward for a while.
I enjoyed Bellingham's performance tonight. Were there any negatives tonight, Stuart, do you think?
The only thing I'd probably pick up on, and it's more of a frustration internally than externally, I would say, I think sometimes we keep possession for possession's sake. Instead of, like, within the first 5 minutes of the game, we're talking about, myself and Jim, about saying, where's the weak points to the Greek? It's out in those wide areas. We'll supply that and keep supplying it until it runs aground a little bit. Then we'll go somewhere else to look for a weak point within the Greek side. I think sometimes I see us in a very slow build-up, but if I say that to the management staff with England, and they say, well, actually, what we done was empty the fitness tanks down of the Greeks to enable us to score 2 late goals, and that's why we do it. I haven't really got an argument when they win 3-0.
No, we were frustrated first half, weren't we? With just, I mean, as one example, rather than picking on him, Kyle Walker, who could have had the chance many times just to maybe even lift it over the top and set Madueke away, but kept turning back inside, playing it to a centre half. And I said to you at half time, didn't I? He should be playing for Warrington Wolves. He's just passing sideways and backwards all the time.
Yeah, as I say, I felt he was a little bit negative in some of his play. He didn't identify that he's had a player outside him that was a match winner and should have been supplying him and time after time after time and encouraging him and getting up behind him and saying, listen, I'm here if you need me, but to be fair, when I give you the ball, I don't overly want it back.
So we were in a position during the second half when Ezri Konsa's been injured. Lewis Hall comes on at left back, Rico moves to right back, and Carl plays on the right of 2 centre halves. Now, he's played there before, but he hasn't played there very often for club or country, and yet it looked like a really good balance. And centre half is a problem position for England at the moment. You know, John Stones being out, Mark Gahey has done well. I think that Konsa has never let England down. But Walker playing there with the pace that he's got, you just wonder whether Walker and Gahey actually going forward as a starting combination at centre half might be something that England would explore more readily.
Well, there's a natural progression for any fullbacks to drift inside and play. Certainly that was the case for myself in the latter years, and Cole Walker's turning into that player. He's coming into the latter years. He should know the game inside out by now at this age that he is. And as you rightly say, you drop into there, it's all about reading the game at this stage, and his blistering pace gets you out of trouble every time. But Mark Gahey for me is the first choice at centre half, and I think he has been for a number of months now. But to put Walker alongside him isn't a bad thing, and it's another great option we have.
And you mentioned Rico Lewis there. I just want to say about Rico Lewis, I think he's becoming really important for England. Not that he's the best player, but for a player so young to be able to switch from one fullback position over to the other in the middle of a crucial game, and it's seamless. We didn't really notice he did the job effectively. You have to have a player like that in your squad, and if he's in your team, you don't see it as a weakness, do you?
Yeah, no, pre-game I thought Hall should have started at left back. That was my initial statement. But what I would say, and probably the biggest compliment I can play him, I didn't notice him. You know, I would have noticed him if people were zipping past him and all that. And as you rightly say, he's been coached by a manager at club level that has made him very, very tactically aware.
Would you do anything different Sunday?
I'll bring some binoculars.
We were some distance from the pitch here, weren't we?
If I was Lee Carsley, would I do anything different? Yes, I think that playing against Ireland rather than Greece, I think, is a game for Harry to start rather than Ollie Watkins. I understand the logic. If the logic tonight was that Ollie is more adept these days at leading a press than Harry is, it made sense for him to play tonight. I get that. But I think that against Ireland, I personally would put Harry back in to lead the line. So I'd do that differently, but I think that any of the players, including the 5 men who came on, would all be worthy of a place in the starting lineup. So I don't think there's the need to make wholesale changes. 1-0 is now good enough, which is a position that, you know, when we're on the plane coming out here, I don't think any of us necessarily anticipated that would be the case, but credit where it's due.
Well, some of us, myself included, were a bit more negative than others about what was going to happen here tonight, and I'm delighted to be proved wrong, but they've got to get the job done. They've got to make sure they're professional on Sunday.
They certainly have, and then we might look at this autumn period slightly differently, you know what I mean, and say, well, the Greece game at home was a bit of a blip, a bit of an experiment in regard to the team line-up, a bit too open, and we paid the penalty, a bad penalty, albeit. But what we've done, if we can put this to bed with a decent performance and maybe another clean sheet, all of a sudden, I think the optimism will come flooding back, won't it, with a new manager coming through the door next year.
You see, if you are looking for a cloud behind the silver lining, I'm not doing it to try and drag everybody down, but just going back to that point that we were making about being 1-0 up and getting Madueke into decent positions and then resisting the temptation, and it's all well and good possession for possession's sake and wearing the opposition out. Greece didn't really have too much of the ball, but they did create one really good chance for Tsimikas within a 5 or 6 minute spell. Now, that goes in, tonight could have been very different. And so I think it is important. If you say, what can you do differently? I think push forward and try and be on the front foot more often if you're looking for a second goal, I think is something I would like to see different.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Listen, it's been a great night. England's had a job to do. They did it. 3-0 win here in Athens. Been a delight to watch it in the company of Jim Proudfoot and Stuart Pearce. Thanks for watching this, and we'll do it all again after the Ireland game at Wembley on Sunday. See you then.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.